Good evening, fellow morons. Welcome to Fantasy Week. We know the star of the show in particular has been excited for this. He has, however, decided to grace us with his presence on camera this week. So, welcome back, Sean. We did miss your face.
Thanks. Kyle, it's no Fantasy Week.
It's not Fantasy Week. Fantasy Week's next week. Thanks for paying attention.
Maybe we should speak.
You're doing next week.
You were just checking to see for listening, and only Daniel was on the one it was. So
you want to double check the sound zone as well.
Wait a minute.
It was a joke.
I'm panicking. The sound is on. We're here, guys. Thank you very much for joining us when we are in Foreign Language Week. We are here this week to talk about two movies in particular that we watched that were selected via the Instagram account as per usual. So today we're going to be talking about Pan's Labyrinth and Battle Royale. We're not talking about fantasy movies. We will tell you what those are for next week. I'm so far in front and so far ahead at the moment. I'm too excited, guys. That's all it is. But welcome in anyway, and we are going to talk about Pan's Labyrinth first of all. But before we go into that, I'd just like to take us through the leaderboard, a quick update on the movies that we watched last week, and give you some information about how that's looking just now. So as you can see on the leaderboard itself, the movies that came in last week were both A Nightmare on Elm Street and The Empire Strikes Back, which caused some controversy in here. We had.
It wasn't any controversy. Just you liked it, we hated it. There's no controversy. You're the controversial one, really, for actually liking that crap.
Four guys with zero imagination watching one of the best films ever made. So that was fun. Fantasy will be a great week.
I'd say Democracy won that, and you were just outvoted. That was it.
And also, I remember on Friday as well, you were getting berated for not making us watch the first Star Wars film first because it made a lot more sense. So, apart you're getting abuse for your actual picks, too.
Well, that is true. So there was some feedback
in this episode.
There was some feedback that maybe we should just watch all the Star Wars all the way through. So if we are still running this, if I've not left these guys behind come May, I think in May for May the 4th, we should watch all of the Star Wars from start to finish. Sean wants to know the storyline. He mentioned how much he wants to understand who everybody is. So yeah, seems like it's only fair. But to give you the scores for last week, we did have Star Wars Empire Strikes Back coming in with a 1.85 and Nightmare on Elm Street coming in with a 3.7 that we kind of covered off being more nostalgia than anything. So I just want to talk you through the top 10 movies that we've got on the list at the moment. You will see all the scores located on the screen right now, and we're going to assign the movies to them as they pop up. So in 10th place with a 3.9 is Inglourious Bastards. Absolutely crap film. Next up we've got The Fighter, and at a 3.9 also. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in next with Terminator. We have Burnsy's favourite, No Country for Old Men. That's far too high in the leaderboard, Burnsy?
Very.
Very high.
Even with Star Wars.
Don't get Daniel started, he's still getting over that just now. Jaws is then next with a 4.15. Then we move into the latter ones, which is Fight Club and The Wolf of Wall Street with a 4.35, just missing out in a top 3 spot. The top 3 movies that we have currently, these haven't changed for quite some time. We have The Shawshank Redemption coming in at a 4.4. We have Seven coming in at a 4.6. And interestingly enough, we do have another foreign language movie coming in at 4.65 in Parasite, which makes up our top 3. So give us your thoughts and your feedback, guys, and what you think of our top 10. I know not all of us in here agree fully that it should be a top 10. There's some movies on the outside of that top 10 that some people are still a bit irked by, Daniel.
I don't want to talk about it this week.
You make it your duty to not talk about There Will Be Blood.
No, it just annoys me.
Well, let's get in and talk about the movies for this week. So I feel like we should start off with Pan's Labyrinth. This was a movie out in 2006, coming in at 1 hour and 58 minutes in length. So it's about 58 minutes too long for the star of the show. The synopsis here says that in Spain in 1944, the bookish young stepdaughter of a sadistic army officer escapes into an eerie but captivating fantasy world directed by Guillermo del Toro. I'm going to come to Daniel first of all, though, and set a good tone with this, because I've got a feeling that Daniel will like this.
You're right, I do like this. So I saw this years ago. Much like a lot of the films that come up, I'd already seen them, but it's been a long, long time since I've gone back to this, and I still think it's really good. There's sort of two different aspects I like of this, because you've seen loads of like World War II sort of movies, and you never really hear anything about what life in Spain was like, and I thought it was quite interesting that there was a sort of civil war between two sides within Spain going on during World War II. But that's aside from all the fantasy stuff that's going on. I think the guy that plays the captain is amazing. Like, yes. I think he's like creepy as fuck. He's an amazing villain. I'll get into the sort of theories I've got about it, because there's obviously, I'll need to ask you guys if you think that the Labyrinth is real, if it's all in her head, or if it's actual magic.
Do you want answers to that just now, or?
Aye.
For me, I believe that it is something that's there. It's like a majestical thing that goes on there. I don't think it's just made up in her head. I think there's a lot more factors to it that people can see and interact with. I feel like Mercedes has a lot of understanding about it. I feel like she's either encountered it before, because she reacts and has a bond to Ophelia very weirdly.
Yeah.
There's a weird little connection going on there.
I was just because the first time I watched it, it never really crossed my mind that it was all in her head. But whereas this time, I just started thinking that it was just her escaping the horrible life she's got, like with this bastard there, guy, and her mom's dying and /deed and all this sort of stuff. So that was one thing that I didn't notice the first time, but I noticed this time. I just wondered what you guys all thought, so I'll ask everyone when it goes to them. But the guy that I love this sort of. We were talking about imagination. You were saying earlier on, Kyle, that we've not got any imagination, right? See, that's someone's top of the imagination that's come up with this. Do you know what I mean? That's why I felt away with Star Wars, that I felt like it was all just a bit stupid, whereas this is like really fantastic, and you can tell that it's someone really creative that's come up with it, because like the guy with the eyes on his hands with the creepy fucking that eats all the children, all that's fucking mental. It's like really intense children's nursery rhymes turned into reality almost. Like, you get the old Brothers Grimm stories that are always really dark, but it's for children. That's what I thought it was like, so it came to life. But no, I think this is brilliant. I really enjoy it. I find the fact that it's in subtitles had me sucked right in. And I'm hoping you guys have been like this week, because a lot of you like to sit on your phone and like no pay attention to a film. I'm hoping these subtitles of pages pay attention. But I just think it's really good. I'm really interested to hear what the next season have got to say, so I'm going to pass it before. Sean made a face, so let's go to Sean.
I was just laughing at the phone thing.
Well, Sean, try and answer Daniel's question first then. What do you think is
He wasn't listening because he was looking at his phone.
I was on my phone, I thought it was... I just thought everything was kind of made up in her head. I didn't really understand this film. This isn't my kind of film at all. And like my phone was in charge during it, so I wasn't on my phone at all. But I just kind of drifted in and out of this. This is totally no for me at all. I liked the captain. I thought he was really, really good, and Ophelia was really good. I'm not into all the fantasy characters and these wee like that fawn and all. I just kind of switch off. I've just always been like that with these kind of fantasy films. It's just not my cup of tea. But like putting that to aside, I can understand. Like I knew that Danny would like this, and I've got a feeling that somebody have a similar opinion to what I've got about it. as well. I'm not saying who it is now, but I've got a feeling somebody else will. But this just isn't really for me. But it's one of those that I can sit back and I can see why people do like it. But like the kind of final scene where like she gets shot and then she's like standing in front of her dad on the big throne and all that, and everybody starts applauding, and it cuts back to her, and then I can't remember her name, but she's crying. The wife's crying over her, or obviously her dead body. Like I just thought at that point I just assumed that everything was like a fragment of her imagination at that point. But I just put the whole film down to just her, just basically like her just imagining everything that happened in the film and the fantasy side of it. I thought that was it. I didn't think it was it. It was up for debate. But I'm not really.
Obviously, they do hint a lot towards that because she is reasonable to book. She's in her own head. She's very creative, and it does allude to a lot of that. So I can obviously give you that. But give us some more of your thoughts on it, because
it's just no for me. Like that's all. It's one of those that like, I'll not go back to it, but I can understand why people do like it. I definitely, of the two films we watched this week, I found this one. I think it's just the Spanish. The Spanish accent, and that I just like it, and it kind of reminded me of just watching Narcos a bit, which I liked. I don't know, it's absolutely nothing to do with Narcos. It's just obviously the language aspect there. But this type of film just isn't for me at all, and the whole fantasy aspect, and I always say like Dungeons and Dragons shit. It's just no for me whatsoever, and I just find myself totally switching off with it completely. But it's not like me fucking shitting on the film or that, because I can understand people who are more open-minded than me would like it, but it's just no for me whatsoever. It's not my cup of tea at all.
Who would you like to bring in next, Sean, then, to give your thoughts? Pass it over to the person that you had in mind that was going to be similar.
I am going to pass it over to Hunter.
Ooh.
Right, so this is where I don't know if you thought I would be the person, but I'm going to no sit on the fence. But see, for me, I think that a lot of the war stuff takes away from what could be a great full feature-length fantasy aspect of this film. I think obviously it's good read some of that stuff because it shows you the captain and what he's like as a person, why maybe if it is all in Ophelia's mind, the life she's trying to escape from, that's why she's in her books all the time, growing up in and around this war during those times. But I just felt there was a lot of it could have been skipped. Like there was a lot of it didn't add anything to the story for me at all. Whereas I then thought, for being a fantasy film, that there could have been a lot more of the fantasy stuff in it. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of the times, apart from the wee sort of, what was it, the magical twig or whatever it was that got flung on the fire. I don't think there was much crossover from any other characters, anything that related to anything, to someone other than Ophelia. Apart from that, was just the one wee bit. And obviously, when that went, that's when my mum then gave birth and died during childbirth at that point in time. But as I said, there was a lot. I probably found myself wanting to be drawn in more during the fantasy scenes because it's like, oh, this is what the film's about. This is where something major's happening. But if you've seen folk arguing over folk possibly being up on a hill and then getting shot, I just kind of nailed the bits that was kind of losing me, like the complete opposite of shot.
See, I was a bit confused because I thought that, like, from when she first met the fawn thing, I thought it was just all going to be fantasy. So I just thought that everything that was happening was in the fantasy world, and it took me about 15 minutes to realise that it wasn't. So, like, that's just because I'm a bit stupid at times. But like, I was sitting watching it, and I'm like, right, so this captain's obviously like, he must be hunting her down in his fun. It was like fucking The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was like they were in Narnia for me or something like that at some point. I was totally lost to it for like 15 minutes, and then I realised that it's like two separate things going on. It went like, and I also thought it was, again, like I had done zero research on this till I watched it, but I thought it was like a kind of fantasy, like PG-12 film. Folk getting his moves sliced open and shot. It was quite graphic as well at times, and quite violent.
But I would say for my tuppence worth on whether I thought it was all real or the thing that for me is obviously the first scene we see in the film is her on the steps dying, So to me, this is kind of like her life, or maybe what she wanted her life to be, flashing before her eyes before she dies. And when she goes up to see her dad, who's like the moon god or whatever it is, that is her going into heaven at that point in time.
Fair play.
Aye.
Yeah, fair play. Burnsy, do you want to come in?
Yeah. I think for me, I don't think if they did the film with the intention of making you think it was going to, if it was real or in her mind, I don't think either way, any way they actually did the film would have made me think that it was in her mind. I think I've just not got a really imaginative mind, probably something like the way Sean was saying. So, to me, it was just all in her head, I thought. But I really enjoyed this. I thought I might have struggled a bit just by reading the sort of synopsis about it. The captain, like Daniel touched on, thought he was really, really good throughout. It came across as like complete scum for the very first interaction with Ophelia, and then also when he just shoots those two guys, which was partly because the people that was with him didn't go through their supplies or that properly to find out they had actually been hunting for rabbits or whatever. I enjoyed how like some of it was only based on the fantasy and there was other things going in the background. I think if the full movie was just based on pure fantasy, then that would have ruined my enjoyment, which is kind of opposite for Hunter, but I think it's again just because of what I enjoy for films. The other things I sort of liked was that I remember I messaged this in a chat about how the guy's leg was getting sawn off. That was like absolutely vile. I think it was someone started eating that like tea. I didn't expect it coming. It was just really graphic and it was horrendous. But I thought Mercedes as well. Both her and the captain were really good in the film. I thought the only bits that I didn't really get was like, you know, when Mercedes was captured and she was getting with the captain, she had the chance to kill him. Why did she not kill him at that point? I didn't really get that bit. No, she sort of ran away with her brother and stuff.
I think she thought she'd done enough to kill him because she'd shot him twice and like cut his mouth open. Like I think she thought that was best.
It was as if it was kind of like he wasn't as if he was like faking it. If you know what I mean, he was kind of he not still trying to like catch her because that's why she was bolting away from the room. And I was kind of just a bit didn't really understand that, but.
He came out running out because she was like walking away, and the two guys are like, "Oh, whoops, you must have let him go." And then they start chasing her, and he comes running out.
Comes with his mouth hanging off, man.
Covered in blood.
Yeah, and then when he started to put his mouth back together in that tea, that was like I'm not really a fan of that kind of stuff, but I could appreciate it. But that was kind of just like it was a bit off-putting for me. And then in terms of Ophelia, I thought at the ending was really good. You actually felt as if. I thought it was quite a sad ending in terms of obviously what had happened when you saw her like dying and then obviously then she goes back underground and whatever. But you felt like no emotional as in greeting wise, but you felt like I felt a wee bit emotional for a change when I'm watching films. I've got a heart obviously on some of them, but no, I thought it was really enjoyable, and I don't think again I'm sort of disagreeing with Hunter, but. I didn't think there was much that should have or could have been taken away for the film to make it any better, which I think all the scenes had sort of a reason behind them. And I did enjoy sort of the parts where it was partly to do with the war and partly to do with fantasy. And because I've said before how I didn't really enjoy sort of historic war films and stuff like that, this was surprising for me that I did enjoy it, but I think it was because it was only part of that, whereas if it was based on full fantasy in her head or full war, then I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So I think they both worked really well. I'll pass it back to you unless you want to ask me.
I'm just going to give my thumbs off, guys. So I feel like the movie was running two stories alongside each other. I felt like you've got a story about Ophelia and a story about Mercedes. Like Mercedes' character plays such a big part in it. And one of the bits of trivia that I've researched after this, it says on there that when Ophelia is rejected by the Faun for not following the rules in the book with his second task, he claims that there were other reincarnations of Princess Moana before her, but like her, they all failed. So this alludes to that it being entirely plausible that Mercedes was also one of these that's been tested throughout it, but she failed. Hence why there's a connection, and also you follow her story path throughout the movie. Thoughts on that, guys?
I just
so if that's true, then it's not all in her head. It's a real life thing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But then also we touched on it about the magical plant that's underneath the bed and that's making the mum better, and they're actually, the mum's saying, I can't explain why I'm better, the doctor can't work it out, they find it, they get rid of it, then she becomes sick and ill. So there's an overlap there that's not fully fantasy. No?
Mm-hmm.
No takers?
Nah,
No, I'm still on the fence. Like I said, the first time I watched it, I was all in on, because of moments like that was why I just thought, no, it's a real thing, like this other world and these weird beings and the big frog under the sea and all that's all real. But it was only this time that I started to sort of question it a bit more, and I sort of went back towards the fence a wee bit. But I think it's a better film if it's real, because there's too many films that are just, it was just like Wizard of Oz. It was all a dream. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's too many movies that end like that. So I kind of hope that the idea behind the film is that it's an actual other world that she moves on to, and it's not just that she imagined it and knew she's dead, because that's a bit shite.
Well, for me, I'm hoping it is that, because I think it makes it more exciting. And you take things like her going in to interact with the frog, she's climbed down, she's covered in dirt. She was aware of the fact that she wasn't like a disobedient child. She wasn't a naughty child. She was generally quite good, but she's went through, got herself caked in mud and all that kind of stuff. And I thought the scene with the frog was brilliant. Like, that was, for me, it's quite a claustrophobic thing, and the thought of going through all that dirt and having the bugs everywhere and not knowing where you're going, to me, is terrifying. So that's more scary than having Freddy Krueger chase me in my dreams. And seeing the big frog, I thought was really well done. I really liked it, and it was all quite creepy but gross at the same time. It's essentially threw up its whole insides and died. I thought it was minging. I'm going to bring in some of the trivia that I've got here alongside it, because we've all touched on Captain Vidal. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was brilliant, and I was quite shocked that I've not seen him in loads more other movies. But when I researched a bit about him as well, so it says here Sergio Lopez, who plays Captain Vidal, is actually considered to be a comedic actor. And the Madrid-based producers told Guillermo del Toro that you should be very careful because you don't know about these things when you're Mexican, but this guy is not going to be able to deliver the performance that you think. Which del Toro replied, well, it's not that I don't know, I just don't care. He didn't care what they thought on the fact he was decided on his man, he was having him, and you put him down as a very serious method actor, but actually he's not, completely opposite. But performance wise was brilliant. And I think he's only trumped by Ophelia. I thought she was fantastic. She was my favourite in the movie. I thought that she was brilliant, and some of the story of the Pan's Labyrinth was actually designed for an 8-year-old girl, and they redone the whole story to make it for an older 11-year-old girl purely because of the acting performance of the actress that played Ophelia. So that was also interesting because that changed. Remember you were talking about the pale man with the hands in his eyes.
Yeah.
For me, in terms of a sleeping character that sits like that you know it's going to have to move at some point, right? I thought that scene built that tension brilliantly because we all knew she was going to eat the fruit, right? And you're sitting there going, don't do it, do not do it. But one of the parts of the trivia here, it says that they deliberately made it aware that she hadn't eaten for the full day, so she'd been away and not eaten. So the fact that she was very hungry would have made her go for it, because apparently it's one of the big plot holes of this movie is everyone knew she was going to eat the fruit, but I felt like that added to it because I knew she was going to eat something and that this creature was going to stand up.
I saw that totally differently. I saw it because obviously you saw in all the pictures that he's done this to hundreds of other kids. He eats all the kids. They all come and eat to the table, then he eats them, right? I assumed that the table of food had magical powers that was all she in. Because it was like she was hypnotised by the food, and there was nothing she could do about it because the fairies were trying to stop her and she was telling them to fuck off basically and just going for it. So I assumed that it was this thing's magical power to hypnotise you to eat the fruit.
I saw it differently too. I just saw it more in terms of because she was a young kid and she was told obviously don't eat the food a couple of times, then if somebody says that to you being young, you're just like, if you tell me not to do that, I'm going to do it. Whereas probably I was thinking more if she went and wasn't told don't eat the fruit, she might have been more thinking of herself as like, no, I maybe shouldn't eat anything in here, but because she was told specifically no, she wanted to go against what she'd been told. So then there wasn't any powers that the food had to entice you into it. That was the way I saw it anyway.
Any other thoughts before I give you Guillermo del Toro's thoughts on why that was like it was?
Oh,
the only thing I was trying to also say to it would be, it's the fact she was trying to justify it, saying she only had like 2 grapes, but there was like a full feast was out on that table. Like it wasn't just like there was just the one hanging off her. So I wonder, like, would there have been different level of consequences no matter what she's eating? She's thought, if I just take the wee smallest thing that's there, then I'll be all right. I'm not eating like half a chicken leg or whatever else that was on there. It's just a couple of grapes. That would be it. I'd be all right with that.
Well, to give you what it says here, so according to Guillermo del Toro, the theme of this is why the movie is set against the backdrop of Falangist Spain. Is that how I pronounce that? Falangist. It says Falangist Spain, where disobeying the fascist regime was dangerous, and it's a final test of character for the princess confirms the importance of disobedience. So it's about being the ultimate virtue of courageous disobedience, which apparently is a backdrop to what was going on in Spain at the time as well.
So when the phone came and told her she'd failed, she'd actually passed because she was forced to disobey.
Yep, she disobeyed.
And that's why he came back and gave her the other go.
Disobeyed and still survived. Still managed to get herself out of the situation as well.
Okay.
He's like, I don't really know where to go with that information. I just a little bit from that scene as well. So the scene where he's eating the fairies, which I thought was really gruesome, when he's actually chewing it and you see bits popping everywhere. During the film of that, the actor Doug Jones, who played Pale Man, had to bite condoms filled with fake blood.
Oh.
Why did they have to? Like, you don't.
Why do they have to do that? I don't see any situation where that's the only option. Like, there's no, like, if someone's asking you to do that,
a big blood capsule inside something would have still done the same effect, and there didn't have to be a ribbed and dotted jewelry.
Might have been one of the JLS numbers or something. Never know. So I thought that was quite interesting. It received a 22-minute applause at the Cannes Film Festival, which was really cool.
Wow.
Really
22
cool.
minutes?
Sean's face.
Why?
That's contagious.
22 minutes just standing applauding. Oh, imagine receiving that applause, just standing there like, what are you doing? 22 minutes and folk clapping.
We've had 5 years talk about it in less time than they clapped.
I mean, you can just imagine after like a minute it must start to go a bit quiet and someone's like,
just gets louder.
Just one person at the back constantly clapping.
I'll beat the traffic, I'll just leave all these folk clapping.
My hands must be fucking caught in blisters.
to be fair, Scotland-England game, we clapped for 2 hours. Solid.
But we were also intoxicated, so we weren't even noticing the pain, so it's fine.
Just a couple of bits there. So Del Toro gave up his entire salary, including back end points, to see this film become realised, and to this day he says it was completely worth it. So he took not a penny from it. The English subtitles were translated and written by Del Toro himself, as he no longer trusts translators after encountering problems with previous subtitled movies. So, I mean, I feel like we should have had this for Directors Week, because I was reading all this stuff about him thinking, like, this is class what he's done to make this.
He's one of my favourite filmmakers. Like, we should try and get more of him on.
Oh, that's it. So it says here that he repeatedly refused offers from Hollywood producers in spite of the offers being double the budget provided to make the film in English. He didn't want to compromise his storyline to suit the market needs. And it said that he's also famous for compiling books full of notes and drawings about his ideas before turning them into films, something he regards an essential part of the process. He left years worth of notes for this film in the back of a cab. And when he discovered he was missing, he thought that was it, the end of Pan's Labyrinth, it wasn't going to happen. However, the cab driver that found them realised that they were important, tracked them down and returned them at a great personal difficulty and expense. And it says Del Toro was that convinced that it was a blessing that made him more determined to complete the movie the way that it was meant to be. So there you go. It was a whirlwind to get it to him as well. But the film was very, very successful. Although it's got mixed reviews from us so far in here. On IMDb it is scoring in at an 8.2. As well as being a winner in 3 Oscar categories and nominated for another 3 on top of that. It was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film of the Year, Best Achievement in Music Written for a Motion Picture with an Original Score, Best Writing for an Original Screenplay by Del Toro. It was a winner in Best Achievement in Makeup. That makes total sense. Best Achievement in Art Direction and Best Achievement in Cinematography as well. Which I thought was quite a cool one for the cinematography, because when I watched this originally and the explosions were going off in the woods, I thought they were shit. I thought they were quite crap when I seen them. Although I did, however, read later on that where they were filming had one of their longest and most harshest dry spells, so they couldn't actually put any explosions in the forest because it would have just lit up the whole place. So they had to CGI that in, which was one of the only downsides to me when I was watching it, because I seen it and I thought, oh, that looks shit. But no,
I mean, I did notice it, but it didn't really take much away with it for me. It was considered. It is a shame though, considering everything else looks amazing. Like all the CGI, all the sort of weird animals and monsters, like the frog and the fawn and all that. They all look amazing. Like, when did this come out?
This came out in 2006.
Aye, so it's a relatively old film in terms of CGI, man. I think it still looks awesome.
Yeah. No, really.
As we touched on today, it's 2006, but without a Hollywood budget as well, which is makes it even more.
Just trying to see if I can see the budget here, actually. That'd be interesting. Budget was 19 million, and it grossed 83 million.
That's a lot for a Spanish language movie.
Only took 568,000 in opening weekend in America.
I can't imagine many Americans going to see it.
That's it. And it's one of those films where, like, I've spoke to a few people and said to them that I've been watching it and that they should go watch it and take the time to watch it. And I always make the same point that you made earlier, Daniel, was put your phone away. Just sit and watch it and enjoy it. It's really, really, it's really good and really worth it. Because you need to, there's a lot of detail for you to pay attention to, I think. And I'm proud of Sean for not sitting on his phone during a 2-hour long movie that he's had to read.
It was just out of battery, so
otherwise he would have been on his phone the whole time.
Well, it was so fucking texting me then, guys. It was 8 group chats in the go. You take a 15-minute break, you come back and you've got about 300 messages.
Anyway, guys, let's move on to scoring this movie then for the Moron scores. So, like I said, it got an 8.2 on IMDb, which I thought is probably one of the higher movies that we've watched. It is in the top 150 of IMDb, coming in at 146. So it'll be interesting to see where we score it. Daniel, we came to you first. We'll come to you first again.
So we'll go to Instagram first. It got relatively decent scores across the board, but compared to other weeks, less people, I think, have seen these two movies compared to... I mean, last week we did Star Wars and Nightmare on Elm Street, so everybody's seen those. But I got a 3.69 overall. One person gave it a 2 out of 5. I brought it down. For me, I very much enjoyed this the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it even more this time, I think. I just think it looks amazing. I enjoyed all the acting. I'm giving it 4.25.
Happy days, 4.25. We'll come to Sean next.
Even though it's no my cup of tea, I can appreciate it for what it is. Normally this is probably the kind of film that I would absolutely shit on, but like, I didn't hate it. It's just no for me. Like, I'm not a big fantasy lover, so I'm going to give it I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I think that's fair.
That's higher than what I expected you to give it.
It's just no for me. But again, like, I can still appreciate stuff, but like in comparison to Star Wars, which is obviously very popular. I just think that's utter dog shit. We're going back to that for a second, but this is again, I can understand why people do like it and why it is such a highly thought film, but it's just no for me.
No for the star. Hunter.
Kind of similar to Sean. I'm maybe going to go just a smidge higher at 3.25. I probably will go back and watch it again just so I can maybe try and make that take more in, like the two stories side by side, instead of, in my mind, I was treating them as two separate stories, and maybe look for that crossover that maybe leans it one way or another. Is it all fantasy or reality? But I would recommend it. I will watch again. So 3.25 for me.
It is interesting that although we've all watched it now, we've still got loads of questions about it. I think that's great in a movie when you've got more you want to find out. It's really good. Burnsy, score yourself, my friend.
I'm going to give it a 4, which I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it, but yeah, I thought it was a really good film.
Burnsy, you're really blossoming throughout this whole movies club.
I know, eh?
Horror movies, foreign language movies. You're that changed man. Love it. I'm just going to match Daniel on there with a 4.25. Thought it was brilliant. Would definitely watch it again. Burnsy, score us up then and let us know what we've scored that at.
So that comes out at a 3.75.
A 3.75. Which takes us up to a joint 14th with Short Term 12. So it is slightly above another foreign movie in in The Hunt, and slightly below There Will Be Blood. So it's in about that ballpark for us guys. The Hunt, The Departed, and Nightmare on Elm Street all on 3.7. So we've marked this slightly higher.
I'm so happy, guys. Like, normally, this is one of those ones that normally with a film like this, I come in all excited with my 4.25 and use all shite in it. So thank you, everyone. I feel happy.
Just
You're not be saying that in a minute.
Also, see if you told me a year ago, right? Yeah. Did you tell me a year ago, right, that we'd be on doing movie reviews and Burnsy would be giving 4 stars to Pan's Labyrinth? I'd be like, no, fuck that, man. There's no chance.
if he's giving 4 to that, you'd be giving 5 to There's Only One Jimmy Grimble. Okay, I'm now nervous to move on to our next movie, just with a comment that Sean's literally just made. So I do think we will come to him first and talk about Battle Royale. But Battle Royale was a movie coming out in 2000. So it's set in the future. The Japanese government captures a class of 9th grade students and forces them to kill each other under the revolutionary Battle Royale Act. It was only an hour and 54 minutes, Sean, so it's coming closer to the types that you can deal with. Came in at a 7.6 on IMDb. But Sean, give us your thoughts on Battle Royale.
I was like really surprised by. Well, for us, again, like when I watch the films, I've never seen this before. Surprise, shock, horror, but I just don't read anything about it. And I'm just going to watch it. Like I was absolutely blown away that it was kids that were like finding it out. Like I don't know. I just found that very, very weird. This was absolutely like gruesome. Like it was so violent. Like just like blood like everywhere. I can't remember like any characters' names, obviously, because it's quite a unique language, Japanese, and that. So like picking up their names was a bit of a struggle for me, but I thought it was all right. It just was. It was like obviously, and I read after this that this is Tarantino's favourite film, and I can understand why. And it's literally like it's one of his. It's like his most violent screenplay. It's just blood and guts like through constantly. I got kind of mixed. Like again, I can drift out of films very easily if it's not like grabbing my attention, especially with subtitles and stuff like that. I know I've said that like, you need to be totally focused in because obviously you're reading everything. But again, like I just found myself drifting out half the time. I fell asleep watching it the first time because I watched it quite late. I can't remember what day, so I finished it off the second day. But the concept of it is absolutely brilliant, and obviously we spend a lot of time in Royale playing like a Battle Royale game in Warzone and stuff like that, so like I was right into it for that aspect. And just the idea of being in that position, if we put ourselves in their shoes, I can be pretty sure that when we were in 4th, 5th year, whatever age they're meant to be, being in that position would be absolutely terrifying, even as it would now. Know that I'm saying they would be alright in their 30s, but being a fucking 18-year-old would be absolutely terrifying. But I was just totally blown away that it was, because I never knew it was kids that was in it. And obviously this film's kind of led on for, you've got other films that are kind of loosely based on this, very shite films that are loosely based on this. The one that springs to mind is that one that Steve Austin was in. It was absolute garbage. The Condemned.
The Condemned.
Fuck me. But anyway, but this was, I didn't really have any high expectations for this. I thought it was just going to be just a kind of very poorly choreographed, just kind of daft film. But it was alright. Again, it's not really my cup of tea. I've established that foreign films, I know I scored Parasite and the other one quite highly. I did genuinely enjoy them, but other foreign films that I have seen, I'm just not that kind of big on. But this one, it was kind of very, very stomach churning for me. With it, I'm not really big on gore and stuff like that. But there was a good few bits in this that I had to kind of winced. But it was alright for me. It was kind of meh.
So funny the way you're describing it. I'm like, oh my god, you loved this. And you're like,
it's the thing, like, and see at the end, right, with the guy, the main kind of ringleader guy who sends them out and all that. So obviously when the three of them get back, and then they shoot him, and then he's just lying there, and then his phone rings, and then he gets up, and then he goes and answers it. I hate stuff like that. Like, absolutely, that's just so stupid. Like, maybe one of you will tell me the reason for it, like, if there's some fucking meaning behind it, but stuff like that, just, it really leaves a bad taste in my mouth for films, like when something really daft like that happens. Like, this is meant to be something that could loosely be based on like a real life kind of thing. I know that it's probably never going to happen, but this is something, it's not like a fantasy film, it's not like, there's no like supernatural beings and force of that. I just found that bit really fucking stupid, and then he just dies on the couch.
It was the fact of Bill, Sean, that he was able to, he answered the phone and then shot his phone, but didn't think I might shoot the people that are actually going to kill me. Or have killed me.
I don't know, it's just...
I didn't know that kind of... I was going to say.
Obviously, like, especially in Japan, and I think you'll probably know a lot more than about this than I will, but, like, Japan's quite out there in terms of, like, TV programmes and films. It's very, very, like, over the top and out there. And, like, see where they were in, when they first, like, when they were in that room, getting told why they were there, and they had the wee lassie on the telly explaining it as like an advert. And like, she was absolutely, that's just like Japanese TV for me, is like that particular scene. Like, she's absolutely buzzing as if it's like a great thing that they're going to be going through and all of that, and going through the rules and stuff like that. And they're all just watching on in horror and pure disbelief. But like, Japanese stuff's very, 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 very strange to me. Like, their kind of films and TV programs and stuff like that. I don't quite get it. If that makes any sense.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think for me in this film, there's obviously loads of plot holes, right? You start off the film with a major plot hole. The fact that they start off the film with the media all over the top of this previous winner from the year before, but none of these other kids know anything about it.
Aye, right, so see with that, right, so again, this is maybe me being naive, so I thought that they were showing you, basically, so the lassie that kind of rolled up in the car, and she was smiling, that was really, I thought that was, like, obviously that's the way the film started, I thought this was going to be really good, because that's quite sinister and quite creepy, just a young child, actually had a teddy, and she's kind of smirking, covered in blood, and then there was nothing. I thought it was going to, like, show you, I thought she was going to be in it, and it was going to show you how she's ended up coming out the other side there. Yeah. But as you say, then it just, obviously, I don't know, 25 minutes into it, you realise that she's got absolutely nothing to do with this particular one.
It's just a previous winner, yeah. So
aye, so, and obviously, like, all the news cameras and that there, so how the fuck would nobody know about this? Why would they act surprised? It's just, I don't know, strange.
So, for me, like, I get that, but when you watch it, there's loads of little mad plot holes in it, in terms of, like, the way the people are killed and stuff, like the boy riding about in the bike that got about 400 bullets lit in him for a machine gun, but he still ended up being at the other side somewhere. The bits that I didn't like is that you just happened to have a boy that knew how to make bombs, and you just happened to have, but then they done nothing. they did nothing with it. The hacker bit I thought was also really interesting, like that they've left computers, they've got rid of this whole island and made sure that there's nobody else there, but then you've got computers that can hack.
They've got internet access.
Internet access on an inhabited island, and I can't even get to play
but they're all being given a chance to survive, so there's stuff there for them to survive with. So, like...
Food and water.
But a chance to survive and beat everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really question that person.
So I
Food,
just
water, and a pot lid. Don't forget the pot lid for ultimate survival. Good.
But obviously, I'm saying some negative things about the movie there, but I thought this was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the concept of it, and I know one of the bits of trivia I've got there is that there's videos games are based on this now. So PUBG, the original one of the Battle Royale games, was based on the whole concept of it. There's multiple knockoff movies of it, including the Hunger Games, etc. It was actually quite good to see this because I've always wanted to watch it, knowing that a lot of things are based off of it. I think that I really enjoy the overacting from Japanese actors. I think it really plays up to what they're trying to do in the movies and make it ridiculous. The scenes where they're getting shot and their bodies are still bouncing all over the floors and jumping about and stuff, it just adds a bit more to it in that setting and in those types of films. I like the aggression from it when it comes on as well. I feel like there wasn't overly that much twist in it. There was obviously a double twist at the end, if you want to say that, where you fought the guy with the little bandana around his head, had been playing them the whole time, but then in actual fact he was playing the people that had organised it to get to that point. To me, that caught me off guard. I thought he had just done them over and he was going to be like a winner for a third time, and that was just what he does. He just comes in and wins it. But I really liked it. I thought the violence in it was good. Loads of gore, loads of blood splatting everywhere. I wanted to know more. I just wanted to know more about the characters, more about the people, because you had that one girl that they touched on that had been forcing her classmates to sleep with older men for money and stuff. Like, what was that background to that story? Like, why was she hated? Why was she like that? Because then you see her in a scene later and she's got two naked guys lying beside her that she's just killed. So, how did she lure them in? And, like, who were these guys? Like, I feel like there was more stories needed around the killings. It seemed all very quick a lot of the time when it came to someone dying. Like, they rushed 5 to 6 deaths, and then I felt like they just wanted to scoot through a lot of that, where spend more time on it. I'd enjoy way more time on that.
So then it's going to be like that. That was one of the things I wrote down, was like, because you had 40 people in it, sure, to me it would have been better if you had like half that amount, because then you would have been able to give more storyline behind it. Whereas because there's that many, the only way you can get through the film is by killing quite a few fairly quickly, you would assume. That was, I think, was an issue with it. So I'm passing back to you, Kyle, because I thought you were still going. But
no, I mean, I just wanted to, like, for me, I think it's just maybe because I was into it. Like, I was really enjoying it. It could have ran for half an hour and I'd have been quite happy. In our 40 minutes, no problem. And give me a bit more depth. You obviously got the whole love story between the two. Again, I'll butcher their names if I say them, but the two main people, as you'll see, you got them a lot. Could have done maybe a little bit less, and then a little bit more of others.
Aye, I think so. That's going to be my only thing as well. I think you could have a bit less of those two, and a bit more of just everything else.
Because it was also a weird connection as well, because he seemed so disinterested on her on the bus when she was trying to give him cookies, and she was pawing all over him, and next thing you know, he's desperate to save her from this thing that they're on, and I don't know, it just seemed a bit off. And then when it started off, I was so confused at the start with the little guy. I think his name is Nobu, the bad boy of the class. He just slices a teacher and then he's on a class trip. What the fuck?
It's his fault. It's all his fault.
But then you get that underlying story where they've obviously tortured this teacher through, because he was a previous teacher for them. He wasn't even a current. This is apparently 2 years later from when he gets sliced by somebody that has moved on, and it just takes ages for that to kick back in. So yeah, I thought I gave more background about that, like give me some more information onto what went on in the background with that guy. They touched on the fact that the parents had been told that this was going to happen as well. Is that why the boy's dad committed suicide? I've no idea.
I took it as his dad committed suicide because he couldn't get a job. So, like, you had the flashback to the scene in the restaurant where it was like, I'm sending all these CVs and no one will give me a job anywhere and I have no money. Blah, blah, blah. I assumed his dad killed himself because he had no money.
Right, okay. So my first thought was
it does say that in the synopsis as well, that it's set a time at the current millennium where the economy's all crashing, and basically they've went, oh, let's just see, this is what happened if the millennium bug actually did kick off, and this was it. This is the economy crash everyone thought was going to happen 21 years ago.
See, when I watched it, I'm thinking, like, did the parents know that this was going to happen to their children and he couldn't deal with the thought process because he would have been on his own if the son didn't survive? And has he done it for money? Has he sold them into that?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I thought that explained itself quite well because it was near the end where they had that flashback, and he was getting angry with the waiter and all that, and then killed himself that night, basically.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously I won't sit right through them all, but when I was looking at this, there's loads of different special editions of this movie that have got changes in it and stuff. So, like, there's a list here and it's got so many additional things in there. There's different versions where Kitano kills more people by activating the collars. Like, there's loads of changes that have happened to it for different markets.
Sorry, but I just pick up. So, see when they shoot the guy, they just take their collars off.
No, it's because he knows how to deactivate them.
Did
you know? You were on your phone, Sean. You were on your fucking phone.
That was.
Well, I wasn't listening to that bit then.
Right, that was explained. That was how. So, Sean, that was how he managed to make them think that there was only one survivor left. He made a shooting noise into the sky, obviously, and then they turned their collars off.
Honestly, I never picked up that either. I wasn't that.
I'm only joking. I've obviously missed that back then.
Me and Sean are both
even the guy shines the remote at it, he's like, oh, that's it. Oh, you've cheated. There's no fun in the game.
He's like, you cheated. You turned your collar off.
Oh, right. So he did. Right, okay.
Right.
My bad. I take he's a drifter anyway. Foreign films.
Take your famous chance for this one.
So I'm reading here just now some scenes that were deleted that were a part of it that may explain a little bit more. So Mitsuko is the girl that we're talking about that's with the two naked guys in the swimming pool style thing, and she was the one that introduced these girls to older men. So there's a scene taken out where Mitsuko, as a 9-year-old girl, comes home to find a paedophile in her house. So there's obviously like an abuse background to the story there as well. Miss Ajan 19, thank you for following. Welcome in. So I mean, again, that's obviously just more depth to the story of her there. There's other things in there as well. Additional shot of Imura triggering the explosives on the truck, so that was a longer scene itself as well. Apparently there was lots of flashbacks that were taken out that explained more of the interaction with the teacher, so you probably get to know a little bit more about why they tortured him, what he was like, and how that happened. Yeah, more things that would be interesting there. But who else wants to give some feedback on this movie then?
I'll go then.
I'll go last. I want to know what Hunter thinks.
I need to Hunter. Or Dunter.
Dunter. They're a happy Dunter buns. You've been discarded for Dunter there.
I know, I've just been left to fly on my own. I am pretty much going to near enough echo everything you've said, Kyle. Actually, I did enjoy it. For me, I know we've kind of touched on it already, but it was like Tarantino does the Hunger Games. That's what it was. I enjoyed the first hour. I was kind of caught, and obviously the opening scene was the previous year's winner. and then the build up to when they're in, obviously, when they get the instructions, this is how you've got to survive, and there is a bit of sort of tension and building up. But I did feel up to there, I can't remember, I did kind of lose my interest a wee bit. I think it was just some of the kill scenes back then, just saying when someone's taking like 25 bullets to the chest and they're still getting up and trying to grab a knife after rolling a bit like this. But it's kind of like, oh, this is just a bit over the top in places. But again, the problem is, as you said, there's reasons behind it and I can totally justify it. It's just, I was kind of losing it at some points. But I enjoyed even though obviously we touched on some serious matters that have happened to these pupils in the past, but also there was some, it seemed like sort of pathetic, normal 15, 16-year-old classroom squabbles. Like the reason for somebody just turning up and pulling out a machine gun on you, like, oh, you lynched my pal, or my boyfriend, and that was it. Or you've been going about telling everyone that we've been going out, like there was that one with the lassie. That bit, why was the lassie thing that you go out and day running? Or she's got 3 days to live.
She looked quite happy as well, like she was quite...
What movie do you recognise her from, guys?
Oh, is she in Kill Bill?
She's Gogo in Kill Bill. She was hired by Tarantino after this movie. He was determined to have her in a movie after seeing her in this.
Wow.
You got the idea for the yellow tracksuit too.
Listen, it might have been because she's obviously in the yellow tracksuit and that's her running gear. She's taking it with her on her school trip.
Half of Tarantino's career still with this movie.
Pretty much. There's probably little Easter eggs all the way through that you could go back and pick out for stuff he's done. But as I said, I wasn't hoping for much, but I've fair enjoyed it. And again, I'm just going to be repeating what you have said so far. But so let Craig fire in with his thoughts on it now.
Go on, TT.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be more sort of beside Sean with this one. It was just I was going with these two and I thought I was going to enjoy this one more, but it was the opposite. There was just far too much violence for me. Like as we sort of touched on before, it's like if they'd cut them out, you didn't know enough about the actors and actresses to actually have any think it was really well acted or whatever. I didn't think so. To me, you could have easily had like say half the number and took out the blood and guts, and that would have made me enjoy it quite a lot more. I thought that was a struggle, and I did sort of find myself zoning in and out of this just because it was just pretty constant throughout. So like, although sometimes I was like looking at it and I wasn't even watching the subtitles because I was kind of like trying to take in all the action, but I can see why people do enjoy it, but it's just not my kind of film. I did think the computer system bit was quite different and added to the storyline. And then also we've touched on the ending where there's a sort of swerve. Thought that was also quite good. I never picked up, like we discussed before, about how he was about taking off the collars. It did also make you think like how you would sort of react if you were just put in that situation too. Like whether you'd have the guts to go about and say there was like you and your pals that were, and it was going to be that either one of you survived, whether you would have the guts to actually just say right, you're dead, or whether you would try and come up, because at one point they were trying to can't remember who it was, but remember there was, I think it was maybe halfway through or something, when there was quite, I think it was after the first day, and they were saying that what we should do is try and get together and figure a way out of this between us all, and then that never happened because there was just more blood and guts.
Guys, I can assure you, if it happened to us, I would be slaughtering you all within minutes.
You'd probably do it even if it wasn't an option. He's like, you need to shoot. Punch the next death as enemy.
The next night.
Just pulling out his lightsaber to kill us from shitting all over his favourite movie.
No weapons. Use my hands. Sorry.
George your hand, Gail.
I was just going to say
Nice.
Gail's not happy, Gail.
Nothing. Anyway, Bonzi, carry on.
But I'd actually, Sean's kind of said most of what I was going to say in other years. I've sort of touched on the other good bad points as well. So it's nowhere near as good as the previous film that we reviewed. I did think the beginning of the film was pretty well done in terms of the suicide and the setup to the field trip as well. It was just more from there in. It was just too much blood and guts for me. It's just no what I enjoy for a film.
See, I'm on Kyle's side with this one. Like, I love the overacting. I love the fact that they get shot 25 times and they're still getting shot and they're still shooting each other. Like, I just take this kind of for what it is. I wasn't really looking too much for the background stories or anything like that. I just find it interesting seeing them. It's sort of like a study on how folk would react in that sort of situation and just seeing that all unfold. Like, the lighthouse scene was quite good for me because that's kind of what would happen in a volatile situation like that. So they're all on the same page. They're all meant to be looking after each other. But then one of them suspects the other one, so they've tried to poison one. They've accidentally poisoned the wrong one, and then within 2 minutes, everybody's fucking shot each other because...
Yeah, that was good, yeah. And that was a good point.
I think that's kind of how it would really be if you were put in a situation like this. It would be with all the best intentions to try to get together as a team, say in 5 years. As soon as someone started suspecting someone, that would be it. It's all fucked for everyone. And I thought there was quite a few cool wee sort of studies almost into how different people would react in the situation. You had some people just wanted to save someone else, like the couple that he's followed all the way through it. And you had some folk that wanted to take down the whole regime with the hackers. They were going to save everybody, like, and then obviously you had the lassie with the scythe that wanted to fucking kill everybody. That was good. Nobody mentioned the other exchange student that was a total badass that went about killing everybody. I thought he was cool as fuck.
So he volunteered to be in it.
Say that again, Kyle?
So they mention that he volunteered to be in that scenario. That's mad. I actually really liked, and I'm sorry to steal your thunder, but the scene where it blows up and then he walks out and you think, God, this is like some fucking Terminator or something, and he opens his eyes and that's it. You can tell he's done.
That was exactly what I was just getting onto there, Kyle, so thanks. I thought it was awesome. The fact that he still started to shoot, but you could tell he was blind, I thought that was cool. But it's a bit cheesy, like it's really over the top. But I love the music in this as well. Like, I think it was very well selected pieces of music that just sort of came in from nowhere to build the tension a little bit more. But the bad, obviously the way it's translated, like, I think Japanese is a language that doesn't translate that well. So it comes across very like cheesy and over the top, just the way that they say things. So like when they're going away from the island at the end, she turns around and she says, the way the subtitle said it was, "It's beautiful, even though everybody died there." Like there's no way, like, I bet that what was actually said in Japanese felt a bit more poignant and nice. But when you translate it literally, it's just like, oh, that looks so nice when everybody died. But that just adds to the enjoyment for me. And I think this is why I love Kill Bill as well. Like, see all the aspects that Tarantino takes for this, the over-the-top violence and the nonsensical nature of it all. Like, you can't ever take this. You can't take this movie seriously. And I think if you're trying to find a story or that, you're not going to get it. It's just fucking fun. It's like a roller coaster. It's like a haunted house, that type of experience. You just like love the thrill of it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
I liked. I kept thinking about this after, right? The scene where they're getting all their backpacks, and the wee guy with the bandana comes running back and he says, "That's no mine," and he takes a different backpack. It's interesting to think, was that all pre-selected? Who gets what item in what scenario and why? Because he's obviously looked in his backpack and been like, "Nah, I knew what I was getting into, so I've got something else." So that guy that got the fucking pot and she got binoculars, like, why were they giving them? Like, I feel like where this movie's been really good for me is I've got so many questions that I want answered in it, and I feel like I should watch. I know there's a second one a couple of years later. I feel like I need to go and watch that to see if it answers some of these questions that I've got.
Yeah, I want to watch the second one now as well, to be fair.
And then go on and watch the Hunger Games after it.
Nah. Absolutely not.
Well,
but that was the last thing I wanted to mention, that this has had such a big impact on like popular culture. Like, it's been, like Mikhail mentioned earlier, it's been imitated so many times, and all your Warzone games and that are based on this concept of everyone being on an island that have to kill each other to the last one standing, sort of thing. I think it's ahead of its time, and it's done, like, it's had this huge impact on cinema that maybe we should appreciate it a bit more than the scores you're going to give.
Well, before we go in there, we'll give some trivia. And sorry for stealing your thunder earlier, Daniel, but you'll realise that
No, don't you worry.
that's a feeling I get every week when you guys start rattling off trivia. Like my very first point here, that it's Quentin Tarantino's favourite movie. It's obviously been touched already. But an American remake's been in development basically since this came out. A producer had got the rights to it eventually in 2006, and whilst basically scripting and fixing it to be the way that he wanted, the Hunger Games got released. So Roy Lee, who got the rights to it, then stated that the project had to be cancelled because the audiences would just see this as a copy of Hunger Games. Most of them wouldn't know that it's Battle Royale that came first. So he's like, it's unfair, but that's the reality of it. So any movie that comes out now like this will just be a new Hunger Games.
The worst thing about that is the Hunger Games is just written by someone who watched this film and thought, I'll make a book out of that.
I'll make a love story version of this.
Aye.
Which I've read all the Hunger Games books, weirdly.
But the thing is, they managed to make a full career out of just stealing that idea and writing it down and adding in some shite teen dramas to it.
We'll go on from there. The magazine containing the bomb-making instructions that were used by Mamoru and his gang, which is titled The Ticking Clock. The magazine is actually a real bomb-making magazine that was published by an anti-Japanese government activist group in the 1970s. So that's actually real. It's one of the top 10 highest grossing films ever in Japan as well, which I thought was really cool. And the last bit that I've got here, that says that many members of the Japanese parliament tried to get the novel banned, but to no avail. When the film was released, they attempted to ban it also. Both efforts resulted in the novel and the film becoming the more successful as people bought the book and went to the movie to see what all the fuss was about. So it's like...
Right, but at the start, like, they're saying it was it meant to be originally like a 15 or something, or whatever it was, and they had to reclassify it.
Okay.
Obviously, like, many folk actually, they went, the maybe parents have took their kids to the cinema to go see it because everyone's talking about it maybe at the time, and they went and seen that, they went, oh shit, this is no for PG-12 or whatever it was originally.
It's like free advertising though, isn't it? Like, someone's going to constantly tell you that you can't watch this, so you're desperate to go see it. I'm just going to have a look to see if I can see what it done in the box office. It's just taking a wee second to load. The budget for it was 4.5 million, but apparently grossed worldwide less than $1 million.
I can't imagine it getting seen much at the cinema. Like,
interesting. So a box office failure.
Well, I'd imagine this has made fucking hundreds of millions in DVD sales. This was like, because this was a big thing when I was at high school. Like, it was a film folks spoke about back then. And in the early days of DVDs, loads of folk were out looking for this. Like, this was, I'd imagine it's done well since.
Happy days. Well, let's see if the boys score it into a good fashion. It came in at a 7.6 on IMDb, but what did Instagram have to say about this one, Daniel?
This one got a much higher score than Pan's Labyrinth, which surprised me. It got a 4.5 average on Instagram. Nobody gave it less than a 4.
Nice. Well, I'm going to come straight to my score first of all and give it that 4 that we just said. I would watch Pan's Labyrinth before this, and I'd watch that again over the top of this. Both selections this week have been excellent. I've really, really enjoyed them. Although I did in hindsight realise that we should have added The Raid to the list before, because that would have been another good one to add. That's a great film. But a 4 for this for me. Hunter.
Even though I'm going to score it a smidge higher than I scored Pan's Labyrinth, I think because I've seen this once already, I don't have anything unanswered from it. Maybe go and then watch, as you said, the number 2 after it. So I am going to give it a 3.5.
3.5 from one half of Dunter. The second half of Dunter.
I've got the same score as you again, Kyle. A 4 for me. I think it's very, very good. I think, obviously, because there's no serious aspects, it's more fun than anything else. I couldn't score it any higher than that, but I think it deserves a 4.
Income for a 4. Burnsy.
I'm going to bring it down a wee bit. I'm going to give it a 2.5. It's just, I can appreciate it, but it's not my kind of film. There's just too much blood and guts, which I didn't like, basically.
Happy days. And tying us all off, Sean.
I'm going to give it a 2.75. It's just, they're all silly and bloody. Just kind of similar to Bonzi.
Silly and bloody. What does that then tie us up
Bloody
to?
silly. Bumsy.
Bloody silly. Bloody silly, guys.
That gives us a 3.35 overall for that one.
3.35, which then brings this movie right in between Big Hero 6 and Spirited Away.
There's a little Japanese section there. That's funny.
That is weird, that actually.
How picked up with the Japanese movies like next to each other?
Spirited Away should be so much higher on the list, Sean.
Should I? Sean fucked that one. There's so many you can get till you go, why is that so low?
I'm sorry for not
Sean.
liking something that you like. God forbid we're different.
God. Should have had that one subtitled so you had to read it and pay attention.
I wouldn't even given it the time of day if that was the subtitles.
Well, guys, that ties up the movies then for this week. So we have a 3.75 coming in for Pan's Labyrinth and a 3.35 coming in for Battle Royale, which I think is actually a bit of a resounding success, guys, this week compared to some of the other weeks that we have. Especially when somebody was scoring Star Wars a 0 last week. I'm still not over. But
A generous 0 at that.
a generous
If we could do minus scores, it would have genuinely been minus.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how you score them when we get to May, when we're doing all of the movies for Star Wars.
I'll not be watching it.
The only one on the stream that week, Kyle. You can have four. You can have four guests if you want.
You
You're banking up to annual leave from me.
You could do a bonus on the Wednesday or something.
I would love to get Sean's thoughts on Jar Jar Binks. That would be amazing.
Keep us out of your bizarre fetish. Just watch it yourself.
Bunsy's left my screen from what I can see. He's not much of a discuss at the thoughts of that. But let's talk about the movies for next week before we go on to Spin the Wheel. So Daniel, talk to us about your experience of he's rubbing his nose. You tell us what's going on and what are the movies for next week. They're on the screen for everyone else to see.
So we're watching Pirates of the fucking Caribbean and 300.
Can I just say something? This is what you get. Right, see, now, a lot of people won't know this, but Kyle and Daniel tried to influence the votes on Instagram. Now, we done this. So originally, this was a group chat where we just picked a film each and we watched a film. We then brought it out to this platform, and we then decided that we'll have our Instagram followers deciding the films, which used to have totally went and stabbed our followers in the back by trying to get your wee cronies and your pals to vote for whatever films you want to watch.
So
it is a disgrace. And this is what you get. This is what you get.
To give my side of this, all I wanted was my friends to go and vote for on the movies. So just to be clear, so this ended up 300 versus Labyrinth that caused all the controversy. That ended up the most voted on movies choices we've had by miles. Like nearly 100 votes pretty much on it. But sadly, Labyrinth, one of the greatest movies ever made, lost out to fucking 300. So those are the two we're watching this week, and I will go in with an open mind as always.
And
but
you
I was
won't be
actually saying
comparing it to Labyrinth.
Kyle's better half, who set up a campaign against us.
Yep, so it was brought to the attention that Sean was not happy about the apparent rigging of the voting. And just to be clear, me and Daniel influenced absolutely 0 votes.
I know, we influenced 0 votes. I've only got like 300 folk on my Instagram. I just said go and vote on it, please, guys. You know,
that's enough. That's enough. It doesn't matter if they did or they didn't. They're shite pals. They obviously didn't go vote for it, so you need to. I'll be removing a few of them. But the fact that you've tried to get them to vote is just unbelievable.
I think I tried to do the maths on it. There was a
I said, how's Twitter coming along?
Looking good. I'm not on Twitter begging for folk to vote for whatever films they like. And to be fair, there's no been... I'll tell you why. So I went on it the first time, and I was telling Kev this at the weekend, and I was like, this is fine, I can do all of this. And then I went to log back into my Twitter, but it wouldn't let me log back in. I had to delete the app and then reinstall it, and I thought, I'm not doing this every time I want to go back into my Twitter. So I'm taking a sabbatical for it.
There you go, guys. That's commitment from the morons to you guys that are watching, that will keep you up to date on Twitter and stuff. We'll keep Sean away from that side.
I put a post up today before this.
No, I did. I did. You didn't. But if you want to give us a follow on Twitter, the tags are below us, as you can see at the moment. But like I said earlier, we tried to do a little bit of a boost campaign on our social media accounts, which I think is absolutely fine. But please feel free to go in and follow us on the Instagram account. It is also just below, and get your chance to vote. And if you want, tell your friends, influence your friends, bring people along, get voting for it. I was definitely wanting to watch Labyrinth over watching 300, and over Pirates of the Caribbean as well, to be honest. I would have rather watched that one, but we let you guys decide, and I prefer it that way. So anyway, this is Fantasy Week next week, not this week, next week. Fantasy Week is 300 and Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. So let's go on to spinning the wheel for next week. This hasn't been on a good run for Sean with the wheel itself, so let's see how this goes. Is there any categories in particular that you guys are looking for?
Partner's choice. Or Bonzi's pitch.
Partner's choice or...
We need something light-hearted.
Aye, we really do. I do anyway. I'm
You
strong.
won't get any blood and guts if it's my film, so that's...
No, I know. It'll be daffodils and daisies.
Oh. Watch this. We're going to pull war movies out next, I bet.
Oh.
It'll be war movies or true stories based on true events by people that Hunter thinks might be real people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things that might have actually happened.
Give me comic book movies. I want Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I would even take that. Like, I would take
4.5 hours movies is Zack Snyder.
No, that's not going in the list, just to let you know.
100% is.
You can do that on your
the wheel is
Star Wars stream if you want.
The wheel is spinning, gentlemen. It is spinning, and it is coming round to Partner's Choice.
Yes.
This will be fun.
Honestly, wait till you see Laurie's picks.
That'll be a good
The absolute guff.
We know what it's going to be. The one she was wanting us to watch overnight.
Aye, she'll literally hand deliver Hotel Rwanda by DVD Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So we're going to get DVDs for your house for this to watch them.
I'll copy them and I'll give you each a pirate copy of Hotel Rwanda.
Right, guys, so we'll do a campaign to vote against Hotel Rwanda. I don't know if she is listening, but I do dread Sarah's choices. I think it'll be something like... Stardust might be in there, actually. That's a popular choice from us, Stardust.
I feel like she should pick Labyrinth as one of her 4 choices to make up for what she's done to us this week.
I think I'm going to predict that Stardust will be in there alongside A Star Is Born. I think that will be in there. Or A Fault in Our
I'm going to keep quiet because I've got some ideas that I think of what will come.
A Fault in Our Stars will probably come. That's what I've seen that for.
I know what 2 Laura's will be anyway, and the ones that we've either watched before or been up for vote before, so third time lucky for Almost Famous.
I'm just looking
Almost
at
Famous.
whoever's one gets final, you just berate your girlfriend's movies and then they speak to you for like 4 days.
This could cost
Oh,
Anyway, guys, that does bring us towards the end of the stream. So next week will be Fantasy Week with 300 and Pirates Caribbean, and then we will have Partner's Choice popping up for that one there. I'm quite glad we can get that one off the wheel now, so I'll just remove that. If you have any thoughts or opinions on what should be added to the wheel as well, please just contact us, drop us a message on Instagram, that would be great. We need to start updating it, guys, with some more stuff, so we need to get thinking. But like any stream that we do, we are going to send you across to another streamer. I think we've sent you across to this guy before, but we'll drop you over to Denman. I think he's playing F1. Say hi, follow along. But anyway, that is it for us. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys. Bye.
See you later.